All right, it's 9 o'clock on this Thursday night. That means it's time for our continuing coverage of President Trump's D.C. takeover. We are streaming live on Fox Local and Fox 5 DC's YouTube page right now, so feel free to join the conversation and jump in the comment section. We'll read what you post coming up a little later. I'm producer Chris. Each night, if you've been joining us before, you know we are recapping some of the major developments and some of our Fox 5 coverage at the same time. And the big headline today, right now, it looks like the end could be in sight because we are now less than 1 week away from the scheduled end to the president's 30-day crime emergency. We know it would take an act of Congress to extend it. And as of right now, it looks like it will expire next week. Take a look. Politico reporting tonight that the House leadership does not plan to hold a vote to extend the president's temporary takeover of the D.C. Police Department. Let's take a live look at the Capitol now. Politico reporting that Speaker Mike Johnson said today that D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser's announcement this week that she would coordinate with federal law enforcement on an indefinite basis going forward, quote, resolved some of their issues. Let's take a live look at the White House now, because the fight over whether the president's deployment of the National Guard in the nation's capital is legal, whether that is legal, that fight looks like it is still far from over, however. That is one of the other major headlines today. We'll have more on that coming up in just a minute or so. First, though, we're starting like we always do at this time of night. We're going to start with the latest numbers. Take a look at the post today on X from Attorney General Pamela Bondi. She said that 81 additional arrests were made yesterday and 13 more illegal firearms were seized, including one firearm recovered from a school in downtown Washington, D.C. Haven't heard where that came from. Our mission is making the nation's capital safe again for all Americans. You see the graphic there as well. 1,841 arrests since the effort began in August. 188 illegal guns seized. The other big story, though, today involved the National Guard. The other big stories, I should say, involve the National Guard because earlier this evening, Fox News reporter Jennifer Griffin broke the story that the Army Secretary has officially extended the National Guard deployment in D.C. until at least November. When asked about the move, a White House official told Fox 5, quote, President Trump is committed to the long-term safety and security of Washington, D.C. for its residents and visitors. So we had heard yesterday that it could last through December or the end of the year. We learned tonight, Army Secretary extending the National Guard in D.C. until November at least. However, at the same time, earlier today, let's go to some video. Attorney General Brian Schwab, D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab, filed a lawsuit today calling the deployment of more than 2,000 members of the National Guard a, quote, illegal military occupation of the city. Now, this lawsuit is not coming from the mayor or the D.C. Council, and that's important to kind of note here. Instead, it's independently elected D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab, okay? Fox 5's Tom Fitzgerald learned from several sources in the Wilson building today that elected lawmakers were kind of caught off guard by this. Now, the suit challenges President Trump's deployment of more than 2,000 National Guard troops into D.C. We've talked about where have they come from, how many have been here, how long they're going to be here. This lawsuit, like I said, challenges President Trump's deployment into D.C. as part of this crime emergency. So the Attorney General says it is an illegal deployment. Schwab claims the deployment violates federal law and was done without D.C.'s consent. He calls it plainly illegal and a threat to democracy. Now, Mayor Bowser has said National Guard troops are not an effective way to fight crime. We've talked about that before. She was asked about this lawsuit earlier today during a State of the Schools announcement. She did not endorse the lawsuit, but instead she said she is focusing on exiting the crime emergency on September 10th as scheduled. I want you to take a listen to that.
Yes. Going back to Attorney General Schwab's lawsuit that he filed today, do you support that lawsuit? And can you tell us what it does to your efforts to get the crime emergency to expire?
I would refer any questions about the lawsuit to the Attorney General. You know, I've said repeatedly the role of the Guard in this case, or questions about the role of the Guard. This has been a legal question throughout the emergency, not just today. And I will just reiterate that my focus and the focus of our Emergency Operations Center is on planning for the exit out of the emergency next week and post-emergency operations in the district.
Well, you seem to support his previous lawsuit against the administration. When it came to the police department, you seem less supportive of this. Is that fair to say?
What's fair to say is my 100% focus is on exiting the emergency, and that's where all of our energies are.
Have you been in communication with the National Guard about reports that they will be extending deployment through December, and what are your thoughts that if those reports are actually accurate, what that would mean to D.C. residents?
Well, I think there's some administrative thing that they're doing with what you're referring to so that people can get paid. I'm not sure that that's an indication of how long they'll be deployed. I know that there's a lot of reporting about how weary they are, and I get that because deployments are hard. People are away from their families, and they may not necessarily think they're on mission. So I think that the deployments themselves are running their course. Yep.
Oh, I know that you'd said yesterday, and that this collective bargaining agreement with the MPD has been in the works, right, for some time to try and you've said repeatedly, right, that you wanted to get 500 more MPD officers on the streets as soon as possible. Do you feel that this was a strong message to the president? As you've said a few times, you know, we can do this ourselves. We don't need the federal presence here. What you know, sort of your announcement yesterday was a really strong message to the president.
I think my message was meant for the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department who work very hard, who have driven down crime for the last 2 years, and we owe them some money. And we have gone through the process, and we are getting their contract approved. I think it was important for them to hear from me and the council that we're going to work on an expedited process. I think in creating the EOC, we mean to demonstrate, because that's how we're going to work internally, that we are organized to best use our own public safety resources and any additional public safety resources. And I think that's a message for the Congress.
So that was Mayor Muriel Bowser speaking today during a State of the Schools press conference about the National Guard deployment, her plans when it comes to ending the crime crackdown and the emergency. Now, we did hear from the White House as well about this lawsuit. A White House spokesperson gave this response to Fox 5. When asked about the Attorney General's lawsuit, they told us, quote, President Trump is well within his lawful authority to deploy the National Guard in Washington, D.C. to protect federal assets and assist law enforcement with specific tasks. This lawsuit is nothing more than another attempt at the detriment of D.C. residents and visitors to undermine the president's highly successful operations to stop violent crime in D.C. Now, earlier today on the DMV zone, Fox 5's Marina Morocco got a chance to talk to a trial attorney about the Attorney General's lawsuit and what comes next. Take a listen.
Trial attorney Marlo Greer joining us now to break this all down. Does the Attorney General have a case here, Marlo?
They do have a case, and I'm really wondering, like, how do we keep the energy about a legal issue the same as it was for the last segment? So you've really given me a challenge here, but I guess the challenge is the National Guard, which People in DC are really torn on this. Some people think that maybe something positive is going to come out of it, and others are very concerned because there's people policing their streets that don't know the streets, they don't really know the areas, they don't know the crime, and they don't know the residents. And so it can be a scary situation. Here's another scary situation. So yes, there's absolutely a basis here. I find it interesting. Los Angeles just did this, and they won in the lower courts. The real concern here is what's going to happen when these cases are appealed. So I anticipate that the ruling would be consistent with the rulings in California, although they're different courts, and so they could be split. The question really comes when it is appealed. So if the D.C. courts finds that Trump cannot deploy the National Guard and that there is no legal basis to do so, then what is going to automatically happen is it will get appealed. And so then it will go to D.C.'s Court of Appeals, and there may be a decision there. And likely, if that happens and continues to happen around the country, it'll ultimately get appealed to the Supreme Court. And what most of our Americans don't realize is it's really the Supreme Court that runs our lives. They are the ultimate decision maker. They are the checks and balances. And so if they determine that this federal action is in fact legal, it can set precedent that will be around for a very, very long time, and just not the interim until crime comes down or whatever it is that we're really looking for. And I don't think we really know what exactly would need to happen so that the troops are withdrawn from these cities that they have been brought to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the bigger question here is, what does the mayor do? She's the executive of the District of Columbia, and right now she has been following suit with the president. I guess the bigger question is, could she depart from her attorney general, and could they not see eye to eye? Because just yesterday she said she signed an executive order calling for coordination with the feds to the maximum extent allowable by law. If she so chooses to keep the National Guard in D.C., she's got the legal authority to do that.
Right now, she does have the legal authority to do that. The question then becomes what's going to happen at the judiciary level. So what happens in court? And if the court determines that the troops cannot be there, even if the mayor does depart from her attorney general, the court's decision will be binding on everybody.
Well, the court would be deciding on whether Trump has the authority to put them in, not if the executive does, which would be Bowser.
I understand that. But the question is the basis of the reasoning, right? And so is the reasoning the same? So has Bowser said, this is why I want them here and this is what I am doing, and here's my legal authority? And so are the legal authority challenges the same?
All right, we'll wait and see what the court says with that. Marlo, thank you.
All right, so that was from the DMV zone earlier this afternoon. Now, at the same time that lawsuit was being filed, some Free DC protesters, some DC council members, and some Democratic lawmakers were all on Capitol Hill for a rally to end the federal occupation of the nation's capital. And we're going to let you hear from them coming up after a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to our continuing coverage of President Trump's D.C. takeover. It is 9:15 on this Thursday night, and we talked earlier about the lawsuit against the National Guard deployment. We talked about the National Guard extension and the likely end of the crime emergency declaration, with Congress not taking up a bill to extend it. Also today, though, a group of Free D.C. protesters, some D.C. council members, and some Democratic lawmakers gathered for a, quote, federal forces out now rally for what they say to end the D.C. occupation. First up, I'm going to let you listen to remarks from Representatives Ayanna Presley and Glenn Ivey. Take a listen.
Good morning. Good morning. Well, another day. In the midst of a hostile government takeover, hostile administration, one that is anti-freedom and anti-blackness on steroids. Thank you all for being here today. I'm proud to join Free DC in solidarity. Let me be clear, everyone who calls DC home deserves representation and freedom. This city is home to scholars, to educators, to families, hardworking people. And for too long, they have been denied statehood and the rights and protections it affords. And in this moment, we see the current occupant of the White House, a man who once called for the lynching of the now exonerated Central Park Five. We see this man sending federal troops into this beautiful majority black city. Right. Our D.C. residents are experiencing whiplash. One moment you've got the National Guard sitting around, looking bored, no clear mission, maybe picking up litter. And then on the next block, you've got tactical teams swooping in to handcuff and kidnap hardworking dads just trying to get to the job site or to get their child to school. When Trump uses these authoritarian tactics in D.C., he is signaling and threatening his intent to bring them to communities across our country, including Boston, which I am proud to represent, and Chicago, the city that raised me. Cities around the country are having to prepare for the unthinkable and unlawful when the president threatens to send militarized forces into local communities who do not need or want this abuse of power. Let me say that again. No one wants this, Donald. This cruel, lawless administration only cares about power, retaliation, and punishment for those who don't bow down to their right-wing authoritarian agenda. But I'm also here because D.C. is personal to me. Even before serving as a congresswoman many years ago, I lived and worked in Chocolate City, and now my staff live and work here. My godchildren, 2 young black boys, live here, and they are afraid. Afraid to walk to school, afraid to go to their summer jobs, afraid because Donald Trump himself has said that young people like them were, quote, born to be criminals, unquote. Shame. It's no secret he's targeting our immigrant neighbors and black kids, specifically black boys. That is dangerous, that is dehumanizing, and that rhetoric, combined with military presence, is meant to keep communities living in fear, which makes everyone less safe. Communities that should be celebrating the beauty of D.C., joining together for summer block parties, listening to go-go music, and finding joy in community. So let me make it plain. Donald Trump's militarization of D.C. has nothing to do with public safety and everything to do with terror and intimidation. Trump showed us who he was decades ago when he called for the death penalty against 5 black and brown boys accused of a crime they didn't commit. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. So we are here speaking up and fighting back. This extremist march toward authoritarianism is an attack on black and brown folks, a deliberate distraction from Donald Trump's broken promises to lower costs, make housing more affordable, and to protect working people. We cannot ignore the structural racism at the heart of this crisis. The more than 700,000 residents of Washington, D.C., who still don't have full representation in the federal government, working families that pay taxes, veterans that serve this country, people that contribute to our communities, but are denied the most basic democratic rights. This racist, rogue militarization ignores their voices and makes us all less safe. DC has the lowest crime rate in 30 years before this occupation, and even still, we know there's always work to do to make our cities more livable and safe, to make those investments to make people safer, to get at the root causes. But the policy solutions that actually fit the bill there are summer jobs programs, federal action to prevent gun violence, and policies that meet folks' basic needs like food and housing. Yes. This fight to free DC is a fight for justice, a fight for safety, a fight for our communities, and I'm proud to be in it with you. Free DC. Free DC. Free DC. Free DC. And I call on my good colleague, Congressman Ivey.
Free DC. Free DC.
That's right.
Free DC. Free DC. Free DC. Free DC. Free DC. Free DC. Free DC.
Congressman Glenn Ivey.
Let's hear it for Ayanna Presley. Outstanding, outstanding. She's been doing fantastic work here in the Congress. Thank you to Free DC for being out here today and fighting this great fight. You know, it's kind of ironic. Here we are arguing about defeating the National Guard coming to Washington, but I can remember not that long ago on January 6th, when they were attacking this building, trying to break in, and did break in. 5 police officers died, hundreds of people were injured. They were running around. Remember they had a noose out here for Pence? Remember that? Broke in, said, hey, Nancy, where are you? Remember that?
Right.
They got convicted, 1,500 convictions. The first thing Trump does when he gets to office is pardon all of them, even the ones convicted of treason. Shame, 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 horrible. And this is the first time, by the way, that we have a convicted felon in the White House. 34 counts. Matter of fact, since the White House is public housing, he shouldn't even be allowed to live there. You know? Shouldn't even be allowed to live there. But he's living there, 34, and he's complaining about crime coming to D.C. He's the biggest criminal we've had in the White House ever. Ever, ever. So let's talk about fixing the crime issues here. We've got crime challenges. When I first became a prosecutor here in Washington, D.C., it was 1990. That was the height of the crack fight. 450 to 500 homicides per year was what was going on in D.C. They called it Dodge City. We fought against that. The leadership here in Washington, D.C., under home rule, turned that around. Right. And now we've got some of the lowest crime rates in the District of Columbia, certainly in 30 years. Right? Right. That's a big thing, right? And you know why we've got it? It's not just police officers, it's intervention and prevention programs. DC's been one of the national leaders in demonstrating that enforcement alone is not enough. You don't want to wait until the shot's fired and the body hits the ground. You want to get intervention and prevention before the gun gets in that kid's hand, before he feels like he's got to use it, before somebody pushes them in the wrong direction. Let's see if we can reach out and move them back in the right direction. So what does Trump do with that? He looks at all these cities where crime's going down because they have these intervention and prevention programs. He cuts them at the Department of Justice. One of the first things he does is to cut the funding for those programs. And let's talk about guns. 79% of homicides are committed by guns. Did you heard him say anything about guns?
No.
So we got a bill in the House
Yeah, that's right.
to get rid of ghost guns. 180 Democrats have co-sponsored that bill. How many Republicans support that? 0. And I'm not even going to get to the assault weapons ban because, you know, they've been fighting that for 20 years. So if you really want to fight violence and crime in D.C., guns is the first place to start. It's the last place you want to go. Under the Biden administration, they had the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Did outstanding work, in fact, helped to fund and coordinate these programs. It's the first thing Trump got rid of when he got to the White House. He said, that's got to go. So we know he's not serious about it. And one other piece, too. If you really believe we need more cops on the street, which should be a home rule decision made by the mayor and the council, why are you holding up that $1.1 billion of DC's money? Give them the money that they have. Give them the money they earned. We shouldn't have it. We should give it back. Let them decide what to do with it. So we know it's a show. We know it's fake. I came down here. I've got 2 of my kids live in D.C. Well, they're not kids anymore. They're adults. And I'm a grandfather now. One of my grandkids live here in D.C. So I come down here in D.C., we go to the wharf, my wife and I. We're having dinner. We're sitting there talking to each other, and this group of camo guys, with the M4 assault weapons walking down the wharf. And we're sitting there, we're there maybe an hour and a half. We counted them up. It was between like 35 and 40 of these guys walking around on the wharf. And the first thing I thought about was, well, if you're really worried about crime, why are you here at the wharf? Number one. Number two, why are you carrying M4s? Because if you actually had to shoot somebody with it, the bullet would keep going. It's so powerful, the bullet would go right through. You want to talk about picking off innocent civilians who don't have anything to do with it? That's not the right weapon to have. One other piece on this, too. Excessive force is a problem we've had in the United States forever. So one of the things we've developed, force continuum, don't just go right to the gun, use other measures, pepper spray, tasers, whatever. These guys don't have that. All they have are the assault weapons and the Tech 9s. So it's either zero or everything. We need to make sure that they understand we don't want these guys on the street. They're not trained to be on the street. They're not going to make a difference with law enforcement. They're not going to help address crime. In fact, they're making the problems worse. So I appreciate you all being here today. We got to make sure we keep fighting, not just on this issue, but for home rule overall. Not just on home rule, but making sure you get that $1.1 billion back. And make sure that we lead the charge here, because if we've got to win here to help win in Chicago and Los Angeles and Baltimore and every city across the country, because we know what this plan is, right? We need to stop it here and do everything we can. So thanks so much. Keep up the great work. We're with you.
So that was Representatives Presley and Ivey from the Federal Forces Out Now rally earlier today. Next up, we're going to hear from some members of the D.C. Council.
Morning. My name is Janice Lewis George. I am a third-generation Washingtonian, proud to be from this city and proud to fight for this city with everything that I have as a Ward 4 council member. This city is a beautiful city. We welcome people. We are a sanctuary city, and we will remain a sanctuary city. We love every facet of our community, no matter your background, no matter your religion. We love you, we embrace you, and that is what has made and always will make DC a great city. I gotta tell you, what is happening on the ground as a leader right now is devastating to our community. It is devastating, it is unacceptable, it is cruel, and it has no place in this city or no place in this country. It is heartbreaking right now. Every morning, even this morning, I got a text message about federal and for agents being around our schools, in and around our schools. I want you to imagine being a young child, walking to school with your father, your mother, your grandmother. And I want you to imagine then you being swarmed with federal law enforcement, with people with masks on, with guns, coming around and taking your mother, taking your father, taking your grandparent. I want you to imagine you as a child and what that would feel like, look like, how that experience would impact you. And I want you to feel that and know that and understand that that is what is happening to our children in our community, to their parents, to their educators, to their families. The Republican Party is supposed to be a party of families, yet you are here destroying families here in the District of Columbia. That is what is happening. This is supposed to be a place of the American dream where you can earn a living and protect your families. On the ground right now, what I'm experiencing, neighbors calling, letting me know across the street where our child care workers who are taking care of our most precious children are being approached while caretaking for our children. Being approached by ICE agents and federal agents with masks. Imagine the horror and fear for our vulnerable children. Imagine them being your children. Imagine them being your children and your child care workers being approached and taken. That is what is happening in our community. I want you to imagine the people who are here earning a living. Drivers who are dropping off food keeping this country and city running. I know you ordered some food in the last week or so. I want you to imagine that the person who dropped that food off is now swarmed. This is what we witnessed and have seen by unmarked vehicles, federal agents hopping out, demanding them get out the car and taking their cars away. That is what is happening in our neighborhoods and communities. The place of the American dream, you are killing it with your actions. That is what is happening in our neighborhoods and our communities. Families being destroyed, our neighbors being kidnapped, racial discrimination like we have seen like no other. Where is the Constitution? Where are our constitutional rights? They are not being respected at all. That is what is happening in our neighborhood and community. And not a single person should believe that this is okay in any way. This is the nation's capital. This is ground zero. And if we don't fight here, we are allowing this to spread across this country. This is not just as DC's fight. This is America's fight. And we need all of you in it with us. That is the reality. That is what we are facing. It has been heartbreaking. It has been devastating. It has been gut-wrenching. But I can tell you, as a daughter of the district, the one thing about DC residents, we don't step down. We stand up and we fight back. And that is what we are going to continue to do. I'm so grateful for our partners in Congress for standing with us, continue to fight with us. They have already said they are introducing about 15 legislations that will impact DC's autonomy. We are asking you all to stand with us in Congress, and we are grateful for you standing with us. If Trump wants to support the district, he could give us back our $1.1 billion. He could fund education. He can fund transportation and environment infrastructure projects that have been gutted. He can support our federal workers that he has gutted and taken out of their jobs. That is what he can do. But again, this is not about safety, right? We know that crime is down and trending down in the district. This is about control. This is about cruelty. This is about expanding a fascist dream across this country and breaking the democracy that we have all fought for. So my message is clear to everyone in Congress, in the House and the Senate, to every neighbor of this country. The District of Columbia is asking you to stand with us throughout this, because this is not our fight. This is America's fight. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. And when I say free, you say DC. Free. DC. Free. DC. Free. DC. Thank you. God bless you.
We need our mayor to say these.
Good morning, DC. All right, that's a hard act to follow, but I am Councilmember Zachary Parker. I represent Ward 5 on the DC Council, and I stand here united with my fellow elected officials, our fearless congressional leaders, and Free DC. I'm proud to be here with you, and we need to be clear-eyed about what this moment represents. I've said from the beginning, we need to reframe this moment. It's not about crime, as we've already talked about. It's about power and control. It's about a wannabe authoritarian figure pushing the bounds of democracy. It's about protecting DC. It's about protecting home rule. It's about protecting our country. Home rule is not a privilege. It is a principle of democracy. So when we are standing out here, it is because we are fighting back. And I would just say, I know last week our mayor said we greatly appreciate the intrusion of federal officers. And respectfully, I reject that framing. Not only is it not accurate, it's dangerous. As we saw, our mayor's words were then paraded around the media and used by the White House to justify an intrusion on local democracies and cities across our country. I will say what is happening in Ward 5. We are seeing neighbors disappeared from the streets. We are seeing raids from ICE at Home Depot and our metro stations. We are seeing neighbors, black and brown folk, harassed on their porches. Our young people harassed as they're trying to get to school. I don't greatly appreciate that. You don't greatly appreciate that. We don't greatly appreciate that. It's not only false, it's dangerous. That framing is dangerous. What we are seeing play out in this city, I believe, is a pretext for what this president wants to do across this country. We can look at other examples from Hungary and Turkey. And history tells us what happens when the capital falls, when people normalize military on our streets, when people are so fearful that they just continue to go along to get along. So I know we are all here because we are ready to fight. And so in the immediate sense, we are fighting so that there's an immediate withdrawal from troops from our city. We're fighting so there's an immediate end to this manufactured emergency. We're fighting for the $1.1 billion that DC is owed. We're fighting for home rule. But I want us to be clear that once we get to the other side, and we will get to the other side of this, one way or another, we are going to get to the other side of this, the fight will continue. Because this is bigger than DC, and this is even bigger than Donald Trump himself. We need to look at the economic and political systems that prop up a person like Donald Trump. Political systems like gerrymandering that allow elected officials across our country to choose their voters. Political systems that allow dark money to control the outcomes of our elections. Economic systems that say the rich get richer while the poor get poorer. Economic systems that allow for the greatest wealth transfer in modern history in the building behind us. That's not about Donald Trump. That's about who we are as a country right now. And so I am standing here in this moment united against this federal intrusion, but I am also standing with you for the fight in the decades to come. So when I say free, what is the chant? Free. Again, it's a hard act to follow. But when I say free, you say DC. Free. DC. Free. DC. Free. DC. Thank you.
Great job, Zachary. My name is Charles Allen. I'm the Ward 6 council member. You are in Ward 6 right now. And I am fired up and fighting back because what we are seeing happen on the streets of our city right now, it is unjust. Yes. It is unwelcome. Yes. It is unnecessary. Yes. It is unwarranted. Yes. And it is downright un-American what we are seeing in our city. From day one, we said this actually wasn't about D.C. This is about power and control by Trump, by his friends, across all of our country. And we are seeing that. This isn't just about D.C. because he's already said what he wants to do, and when we hear the guy say what he wants to do, believe him. He has said he wants to go into New York, and into Chicago, into L.A., Memphis. Now he said last night he wants to go to New Orleans. Are you seeing a trend of what he's doing? We are on the front lines. This is the front line, but every American should be paying attention. Every American should be fighting back. Everybody should be concerned about what they are seeing and the actions they have to take. I want to share a little bit about what's happening in Ward 6 on the ground. My colleagues have shared what's happening in their communities. The exact same thing is happening right here. Just a couple blocks away at Union Station. You may have seen. Last night, Amtrak, Federal Police, and National Guard decided that anybody that's a kid can't come into Union Station. They decided to post and close the doors of a public building to say kids can't come in. I've got a 14-year-old daughter. She doesn't carry ID on her. And they're checking IDs of kids. We are talking about young people who use our metro system, who use transit to get to school, and now they are afraid to even show up to school. Shameful. Lincoln Park, a few blocks away. On any given Friday night, you will find 500, 600, 700 neighbors just gathering as families, gathering in neighbors out in this space. What did we have last Friday night? 4 armed National Guards with assault rifles walking through, and what happened? Everybody went home. They're scaring people out of our public spaces and out of our communities. We are watching as they decide to chauffeur ICE agents to go tackle and take down and injure people that are just trying to earn a living. Our businesses, our local economy is suffering. Workers are afraid to show up to the job. People are afraid to go support their businesses. I haven't found a single business who's raised their hand and said, you know what, this has been great for me. Everybody is hurting. And maybe that's part of their plan, is to just hurt the district over and over and over again. They have fired thousands and thousands of my neighbors from their jobs. They are driving people away from businesses. They are hurting our business owners. They do not want National Guard standing in their doorway. Our businesses are hurting. Our local economy is hurting. Our workers are hurting, our families are hurting, our students are hurting. So I am deeply grateful that Congresswoman Presley, Congressman Ivey were here because they've got our back. Several of us met yesterday with Leader Jeffries, and he committed he's got our back. We need everybody in Congress to understand what is at stake. This emergency, this made-up emergency has to end. The National Guard have got to go. Federal agents have got to go. And let the city get back to running the way that we do, with an accountable, elected mayor and council and attorney general who you get to hold accountable for their decisions, their actions, and their words. That's how we've made the progress over the last several years. That's how we will continue to make that happen. So, Zachary, I'm not going to mess it up. When I say free, you say DC. Free? DC! Free? DC! Free? DC! Thank you, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ward 1 Councilmember Breanne Nadeau. As you know, Ward 1, thank you. Ward 1 is the heart of our immigrant community. Residents, businesses, visitors, and we are very proud of that. And because of that, we are being targeted and we are under siege. Every morning, I wake up to alerts from neighbors about sightings of ICE and other federal law enforcement in our community, and I continue getting those alerts all day and into the evening. In fact, I got another one while we were standing here just a moment ago. Let me say this. Here's what's going on with parents right now. Parents are getting up in the morning and getting ready for work. Parents are louder? Okay. Parents are getting up in the morning and getting ready for work. Then they're getting their kids ready for school. Then they're dropping their kids off, and then they're going on patrol. Thanks to organizations like Free DC, our parents are organized and they're protecting our community, and it is tremendous. But it shouldn't have to happen. The District of Columbia is better prepared than almost any jurisdiction to fight back against something like this, because we constantly have to fight for our most basic rights, and it's not fair, but it's who we are and it's what we do every day. And we will not take this sitting down, no matter what our mayor says. Okay. Here's what I want to say to Congress, because my residents are scared. My business owners are afraid to speak up because they're worried what will happen to their residents. Our workers don't want to go to work, but they have to, because who else is going to pay their bills? This is not a choice. Everybody has to live their lives here, but they're doing so at great risk. So my message is to Congress is, you handle your business. And we'll handle ours. Because last I checked, we were pretty good at handling our business, and you all have some work to do. And I say to our allies in Congress, we need you. We need you to stand up. We need you to be bold. We need you to use the filibuster to keep us safe, because you're all we have right now in the federal government. So thank you to the Democrats who joined us today. Thank you to Free DC. Thank you to all my colleagues and all the residents who are standing up together. When I say free, you say DC. Free! DC! Free! DC!
Good morning, DC. I'm Councilmember Robert White. We are living through a pandemic of fear. It is not a freak accident of nature. This is intended. It is not unstoppable, because we can stop it, but only if we are honest about what's happening. This is not a time to bury our heads in the sand. It's not a time to cower in fear. It's not a time to focus on the few things that we disagree about. It's time to talk about what's happening, to come together and say that saving our city and saving our democracy is more important than a couple of things that we can argue about tomorrow, because today we have got to save democracy in D.C. Yes, sir. I was late this morning because I had to double back after getting a text about ICE agents swarming around an elementary school. I show up to see the assistant principal outside, teachers on the corner, and scared-looking parents dropping off their kids. I got a text yesterday from a teacher who asked me if it was normal that a father was being detained and his car was being taken as he was taking his daughter to school. A mother of a little brown girl told me earlier this week that on their way to a soccer game, her little brown girl had to ask Mom, why are these soldiers with guns standing outside the game? And I am raising 2 little black girls who know what is for them and what is not for them. They don't see these military units. They don't see these officers here to protect them because they are not here to protect them. They are here to catch them, to condemn them, to take away their rights that their forefathers and foremothers fought so hard for. They're here to push back democracy. They're here to tell them that they are less than so that other people can feel like they are more than. They are here to take our city, not to support safety, but to go against home rule. That is not the world and the reality that I'm going to leave my little girls or any of these children to. None of us thought that we would see a time like this, but this is the time that we are in. And at some point, the history will be written, and we're going to have to look at these children and say where we were on the side of that fight. We will have to justify what we did and did not do. So I'm not prepared to say that I capitulated. I'm not prepared to say that I cowered. I'm not prepared to say that I went along to get along. I'm prepared to say that I led the best way that I knew how. That I encourage our council and our Congress and our mayor and our attorney general to stand together, but not in fear, not in compliance, but against an authoritarian takeover of our city and our country. So we need our DC elected officials to stand united right now. But united is not united in fear and compliance. It is united against this travesty of democracy. We need our Congress to support us right now because it is clear the president has said he is doing this in Maryland, in New York, in California, now in Louisiana. So democracy will be stripped away everywhere, not just in D.C. We just happen to be ground zero. That is why we must stop it now. That is why Congress must stand up now. Last thing I'll say before I leave, other than give us our damn money back, is this. As Democrats have decided that we are going to stop bringing a pen and paper to a gunfight, and we've started to fight hard on the front lines, and these redistricting battles started in Texas, but it won't end there. This is a time, if ever there was, for D.C. statehood. That's right. We need senators and a voting member of Congress who is ready to protect our democracy and our city. In dozens of meetings over the past couple weeks with congressional offices, they said we are now confused about where D.C. stands because of statements coming from the mayor's office. So I want to make it clear to them right now, we don't want this. Can we tell Congress we don't want this? We don't want this. One more time so they hear you. We don't want this. We don't want this. Thank you, D.C.
So you just heard the passionate pleas from some members of the DC Council and some members of Congress at that Federal Forces Out Now rally. Meanwhile, it looks like the city of Chicago is bracing for a federal deployment next. We're going to have much more on that and the latest here in DC coming up tonight on Fox 5 at 10 and 11. Also tonight at 10 and 11, Josh Rosenthal has more on the arrest of a Montgomery County man accused of impersonating a police officer. And Shamari Stone is following some breaking news from Northeast DC. That is where police responded to reports of a woman who was kidnapped. This happened at Oklahoma Avenue Northeast and 24th Street. Happened around 7:45 tonight. Shamari Stone will be live with all of the latest on that coming up in just about 10 minutes. Tomorrow, we're likely going to hear from President Trump again because he will apparently sign a new executive order that will rebrand the Department of Defense as the Department of War. He has teased that several times over the past few weeks. Tomorrow, it sounds like he will sign that executive order. We'll likely hear from him after that. For now, though, we're going to take you to Live Now in Progress. I'm producer Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Spooky Mulder's Greatest Hits. Thank you to Auric 3D. And thank you to Todd joining us in the comment section tonight here on YouTube. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
for trafficking drugs and smuggling humans into the United States. These cartels have no bottom. There is no limiting principle on how low they will go to enrich themselves. We saw an example of this recently